Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode in the Illuminance podcast. Today, I would love to tell you a little bit of a story. It's a story that I have told partially before, but it's one that can't really be shared enough. And the reason for that is because of the importance for us as HSPs, high sensory people, in finding our place in the world in terms of our work and our career and our business. If you're listening to this and you are on the cusp of making a change in your work life, maybe that is to finally find the business that you're really meant to build, or to make a shift in your career path into the arena that you know you're born to serve in. Or if you are simply fed up with not being able to make work for you, or if you are constantly haunted by a deeper knowing in yourself that there is more that you should be doing, this episode is going to be really helpful for you. So, the story that I often tell in my programs and especially on the YouTube channel is around my journey of making that shift myself, and the greatest breakthrough that I experienced in my life, where I finally came into ownership of the truth of my abilities and the cause in my heart that really means everything to me, and that has always meant everything to me, and is the basis on which Illuminance was founded, to support other HSPs, high sensory people, to also make this shift and to support them in understanding why this shift is so important for us, and to help with the pain of what it's like to be in the other side of this shift. And that's what I really want to talk about today, with the intention of helping you to understand what is really possible for you, and how you can begin to act upon that. The pain for me that was happening in my life prior to the shift that happened for me between the period of 2008 and 2017, I was in a very intensive period of inner work and training. And it was during that period that this shift happened for me. And I'm going to talk about what I mean by this shift just in a moment. But first of all, I just want to talk into a little bit around what it's like for us when we're in this experience of just not feeling at home in ourselves. And there's various reasons for that. As HSPs, high sensory people, the trouble for us is that we're actually processing the world in a different way, and that's intended. Nature intended for this trait to be in the human genome because of our ability to sense and process the world around us at a deeper level, and the evolutionary advantage that it brings to humans and animals. And for us as human beings, we're really in the early stages of figuring out what that really means and the importance of what the trait really represents for the human race. So for many of us in my generation, we had to go through the process of growing up and figuring life out and coming into adulthood without the resources that we really needed. And by that I mean very few of us had the mentors around us to say, you're actually built differently. Your central nervous system is running differently. The way that you're cognitively processing sensory information is different. And there's a reason for that, and the way in which you're here to make a difference in the world is tied to how you're processing. So few of us got to have that conversation. Some of us had the right environment around us where we were really supported in our difference, and that's where we truly thrive as HSPs. But when we're not, when we don't have that opportunity, what happens is we tend to go into this experience of hiding the greatest part of who we are, which is this cause in our hearts, and it is the way in which we're seeing and perceiving the world. It's in our perception that our value lies for us as HSPs. And for those of you that are new to this channel and that you may just be finding out about what this term HSP really means. And it refers to the genetic personality trait known as sensory processing sensitivity, which is not a condition. It is a difference in the way the central nervous system is operating. And as I say, nature has kept this difference, this neurodivergence in the human genome for a very good reason, because of the purpose that it serves. So it's also known as the highly sensitive person, and I am on a mission to reframe that into high sensory intelligence because of the connotations around the word sensitive. And for many of us, when we first discover that we are an HSP, we often dive into the resources that are out there. Of course, there are some amazing resources out there, but also, when we hear of this word sensitive and we find that we're processing more deeply, which makes us emotionally reactive, it makes us sensitive to our environment, and it causes overwhelm much of the time, we tend to then descend into managing it as a condition. And that is unfortunately one of the greatest mistakes that we can make, because that means we're then feeding a false identity. And that is what I really want to talk about today in the context of our work. HSPs are deeply committed to solving an imbalance in the world. That is one of the fundamental parts of our character. It is an offshoot, I believe, through the 8 years that I've now been training HSPs full time, and in all of the years prior in my own training. The ability that we have to process more deeply creates a profound experience with truth. And in this, what I mean by this term truth, in what we're talking about today, is that we're able to see more deeply into the way the world functions around us. We understand the truths of humanity. We understand spirituality more deeply. In the tribal context, HSPs are typically the medicine people. They are the shamans. We are naturally spiritual leaders. And that is not to say by any means that we're better than non-HSPs. I say that pretty much every time I speak, but it's very important that we understand that we're not different. We're supposed to be in partnership. It wouldn't work if we all process to the depth that we do. We need the balance of the two. But understanding the importance of our relationship with truth actually opens up an area that is deeply important to us, which is around our cause. So for you as an HSP listening to this, there's going to be a part of life that you deeply care about, and you will have always deeply cared about. And it is the ability that you have to see more deeply into the world around you is actually allowing you to gather more data points and information around a particular area of life that you can see more deeply into. So the more intelligence that we have, the more data points and the ability that we have to read more deeply, it gives us more information, which is why it helps us to understand the truth in areas of life more concisely. This cause in our hearts is often what causes the pain for us when we are working in the wrong line of work, or we're not running the business that we should be. And that's because we know in our hearts there's something deeply important to us that we really want to help with in the world. We want to be in service in that area. And this is why it's tricky for us as HSPs to actually be really honest about this, because it's very rare that we are given the opportunity to have the conversation around this. And there's another episode that you can find here in the podcast episodes below called The Conversation That We Really Want to Have. And I recommend listening to that because it talks into this piece more deeply. The conversation that we all need to have as HSPs. This problem, it gets really troublesome for us because it's just not common in our society to talk deeply into areas of life that really matter to us when it's actually quite difficult to articulate it. So in other words, if you're at a dinner party and let's say, the topic came up, let's play a game, let's all talk about what we think our purpose is, or let's talk about what we deeply feel passionate about. And usually what happens in that conversation is there may be people at the table who are deeply driven in their work. Perhaps they are doing a great deal of research in a particular area and they're working hard to make changes in that area. Of course that's happening, but it's not common for that, for that to be everybody around the dinner table. Usually the higher percentage of people around the dinner table, statistically, is that we're going to be in jobs working for other people. And that's not to say that we can't be following our passion, but the point that I'm making here is that for the HSPs around the table, that conversation is deeply moving for us. And having trained 350 HSPs deeply, I can say with great conviction and with great understanding that HSPs carry a cause in their hearts that is profoundly moving. And it makes it really hard for us to be working in the wrong area of work. And for the people that come to me, the people that I've been fortunate enough to train over the years, that is the pressing problem that they come to, is that I just don't feel like I'm being true to myself, and it's tearing me apart. And so the story that I'm leading into is what that felt like for me. If I can talk into that a little bit, hopefully it'll bring some context for you to help you to shed some light on what this might be like for you and what you can do about this if this is how you're feeling. So in my case, I was always entrepreneurial. I was always working in building my own business. But really what was happening behind that is I was trying desperately to find the freedom in order to allow myself to truly express who I felt I really was inside. It was almost like going about that in a way that wasn't truly serving it, but I just didn't know any other way to do it. And also, I was also driven by wanting to be self-sufficient and be financially independent, because I was also fighting against this false identity in myself. I felt like there was something wrong with me. I felt like I wasn't lovable. I felt like I wasn't allowing myself to truly be seen, and people weren't truly seeing me. And it felt like if I was successful and if I made money, then that was going to solve that. So I was partially being driven by that. And the underlying piece that I was trying to truly reveal was this purpose in my heart that more than anything in my cause, in myself, was that I wanted to do something about the imbalance I could see in humanity, wherein there just wasn't this deeper relationship with truth going on that was keeping us in balance with with the environment, with the natural way the world is intended to be led, that promotes a healthy relationship with the environment, that promotes a healthy relationship with ourselves as human beings, where we're actually coming out of conflict and we're coming out of this deep illusion that it's all about ourselves and that we are separate from love and from source and from something greater than us, that we are here only to look after ourselves and to fulfill our base desires, to make more money, to be powerful, to take from the world and to be greedy. That awareness as a child for me was deeply, deeply troubling. I just couldn't understand why we were all living in the way that we were. And in my heart, throughout my business career, I always wanted to do something about that. But the problem is I just didn't allow myself to truly own that there was this awareness in me, that there was this imbalance within me. It was so difficult to talk about that. And it was so difficult to talk about the energetic truth of that not only did I care about that imbalance, that it felt like we were, heading towards a cliff as humanity, that if we don't make a change, we could end up causing irreparable damage. And the energetics around that were a huge part of my reality. So growing up, I used to have a deep relationship with the natural flow of energy moving in the world. But how do you talk about that? How do you bring that up at the dinner table to say, I was feeling colours as a child, and I was in this kind of ecstatic, adventurous relationship in the ecstatic experience in the garden of my home when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, where I was just immersed in this magical flow, observing the intelligence of life moving through everything, feeling that, moving through the grass and the flowers and the trees and the wind and the sunshine, and just in this kind of giggly, expansive relationship with truth. That to me is what truth meant, was the reality of what's actually behind our day-to-day senses. But again, the reason that it was so difficult for me to talk about that was because I'd gone through this period of life where I had to hide my truth in order to fit in order to be accepted, in order to be successful. And so it was like this distant sort of experience of disconnection, this part of myself that deeply, deeply mattered, because I was being driven by this drive to want to fit in, and this drive to make money to be accepted, this drive to make money to be lovable. Like, what's wrong with me? Surely if I get successful and I do really well, then I'm going to fit in, and then everything, my life's going to work in that way. So one part of the battle was all of that illusion that was going on. And then there was this other part of me where it was actually really difficult for me to talk about this part of life that deeply mattered to me, that I wanted to be a part of this change in the world. I wanted to be a part of this cause that was doing something to help humanity, to stop everybody in their tracks and say, hang on a minute, if we don't get honest about our role here, are we going to never be able to change the course of humanity towards something good, where we can actually stop this madness that is causing such damage to us, and actually bring ourselves into a path towards a switch in consciousness, where we actually let go of what's causing all the problems in the world, and we get really honest about the truth of who we really are at a deeper level, and allow ourselves to evolve, allow consciousness to evolve, allow us to move towards peace and balance, which I know in my heart that we're capable of. It's going to take some years for us to get to that shift. But I believe if we have the right people in leadership that understand the greater cause that is possible for humanity, we can create the container to make this shift in conscious awareness, to actually raise vibration and move us in towards balance and create a world that we're proud of for the future generations to come. But how on earth do you talk about that? I can talk about it now. I can talk about it now because I'm in ownership of it. And because I am now doing something about that. I am now dedicating my life to training people that are here to do something about the problems in the world. And every single one of those HSPs that I've trained over the years have been able to have this conversation and have been able to move into a life of service in alignment with what deeply matters to them. But here is the piece that changes everything. This is the transformational breakthrough that I had that made all of this possible. And this, I hope, is going to be really helpful for you to hear if you're listening to this and you're tuning into whatever that cause is in your heart, and maybe it is super distant in you, and maybe you can't remember exactly, what it is that you deeply care about, but there's something that is tearing you apart inside because you're not dedicating your life to the truth of your purpose and to the truth of your cause. And if that's the case, then the breakthrough that happened for me and the breakthrough that has happened for the people that I've been fortunate to train over the years is when we actually get honest about the way in which we are processing the world more deeply. And again, it's so difficult to really embrace the magnitude of this, but it's something that I'm continuously talking about. And it is the process that I teach in my programs. And there is a program that takes you through this process that you can self-study at home, come into our community and get the support that you need, to be able to utilize this breakthrough in a way that will allow you to walk the path into the work you're supposed to be doing, into the career, into the business. That program is called the High Sensory Method. And there is a masterclass in the link under this, in this episode. You can go through that masterclass and it will give you access into that course if this is resonating for you. I share that because, it's not supposed to be a shameless plug where I'm just, trying to talk about the programs that I've created. I'm sharing that because having this piece is going to allow you to break out of this funk, to break out of this pain of running a false identity and being in the wrong work. I can't bear for you to be in that pain when I know there's an answer. I know there's something that you can do about this. And the foundations that I've been able to identify over the years of my own training and in the work that I've done are what's taught in the High Sensory Method. And you can take yourself through that and you can answer the questions that are presented to you during that process that will give you this breakthrough in your awareness. This breakthrough in your awareness that I'm talking about is when we realize that what we are seeing on a day-to-day basis, what you are seeing on a day-to-day basis is unique to you. The way in which you are interacting with the world around you is unique to you. You're actually seeing areas of life in a very particular way that is intended to be utilized in a particular way that actually serves this cause that's in your heart. Where your attention naturally goes, the information that you're receiving through your senses, through your intuition, through your interaction with the world, is designed to serve this cause that you deeply matter, that deeply matters to you. Now, the problem is that when I'm saying that to you, hopefully you're now going to start to observe that and start to observe where your attention is going. But the problem is we're so used to being in that reality that we just don't realize quite how it's functioning. And that's why I created that course. I'll stop talking about the course in a moment, but the reason I did that that I created this process is to give you an objective experience of your reality. Because when we're immersed in it, it's a bit like a fish swimming in water. The fish doesn't know it's swimming in water unless it has an alternative dimension jumping out of the water, or it's taken out the water, where it's like, oh, there's actually a whole other dimension here. It's very difficult for us to notice the difference in our reality, that there is actually a unique perspective that we have, if we've never been given the opportunity to talk about it, or for someone else to point it out to us. And that's what this process does. And that's what my work is here to do. Quite literally, my purpose here is to help HSPs to transition into this shift in their perception, so they can look at it objectively and say, oh, hang on a minute. When I am having conversations with particular people, what I am feeling from that person has purpose. When I am in conversation and I'm receiving messages and I'm receiving downloads that I feel called to share, there is purpose there. When I am called to want to make a difference in some way, in alignment with my cause, the way in which I'm processing more deeply is actually designed to serve that. So what makes you an HSP is your ability to process sensory information more deeply at a cognitive level. That is happening in a very specific way. And your heart and soul is consistently trying to point it out to you. And that is one of the greatest causes of pain for us, is that we can sense there's something really special and magical happening in our conscious awareness, but we just cannot figure out what the F it's for, or why it's so prominent in us, why the feeling is so prominent, or why this disconnection feels so prominent. And it just doesn't have to be that way. There is a way in which you can start to piece the puzzle together, so you can understand why you're feeling what you're feeling when you are in conversation with particular people. That you can understand the piece of the puzzle that is related to your intuition, in what you're sensing and what you're suspicious of and what you care about, and how you're receiving messages visually, auditory, through your feeling, that's inviting you to speak and share that information, because it has an effect on the world. It has an effect on the world in a very particular way that helps to address the imbalance that you are so gifted at seeing in the world. Whatever that area is, there's going to be an area of life that deeply matters to you in a particular area. It always has done. So once you begin to have the pieces of this puzzle together, what it does is it actually reveals the truth of your identity. And the truth of your identity is a joyful, natural expression of these core foundations of you. And it opens up a path then that makes your career make sense, or the options for your career make sense. It makes the potential business for you make sense. In other words, you are the pieces of the puzzle that are designed to create a particular business or a particular career path. In other words, the two will naturally align. And that's why we so often struggle in our work, is because when we're running a false identity, where we're not in ownership of these amazing skills and abilities that we have, and we're just trying to fit in, and we're working as hard as we can just to make money, or just to try and be acknowledged, or just to try and get that validation, that external validation, to try to make ourselves feel better. When we're in that madness, we're not in alignment. And that's why businesses don't work for us, or our career isn't working for us, or we're spending, years and years in the wrong line of work, because we're not actually in engagement with ourselves. We're not actually grounded in the truth of who we are. And life just doesn't work. Especially for us as HSPs, we can't make that work. It becomes incredibly draining for us. So once we have these foundations, once we have these pieces, then it then gives you this amazing opportunity to understand what is truly natural for you. And for many of us, a very high percentage of the people that I've trained over the years, it's working with people in some way that we are typically here. That's the work that we're typically here to do. Many of us are artists. We are, even if we are an artist as an HSP, whether it's painting, it's dancing, it's singing, whatever it may be, whatever our creative medium might be, that is actually still working with people, funnily enough, because it's the effect of our art on people that is helping to create the healing and transformation that we want to see in the world. We are here to create shifts. We're here to raise frequency. We're here to create transformation. We are here to bring a higher perspective. And so the breakthrough for me was when I realized that I actually have an ability to read truth and potential and purpose in HSPs. That's my gift. I'm able to energetically read and feel when someone is speaking their truth about their purpose and what they're here to do, and when they're not. And when I realized that, that piece of information became available to me, I then began to try that. I began to test that out. And the result of that was absolutely unbelievable. Everything started to make sense for me. I realized that I just had this natural ability. And I have a page of testimonials that you can read through on our program. If you go to the Illuminance website, you can see on the program. And this isn't a pitch. I'm not pitching our specialist program. But if you read through all of those testimonials, they're all talking about this experience of revelation that my clients have had that our clients have had over the years as HSPs. And that is as a result of either me or my other trainers being able to read the truth more deeply in HSPs. So we each have a unique version. My trainers have a slightly different version of how they do that, which is unique to them. But my version of that, in that being revealed to me and me putting that into practice and seeing how that worked, was the greatest breakthrough I've ever had in my life, because it suddenly gave me the right medium through which I can serve this cause. In other words, that haunting drive in me that I've had ever since I was a child, that when I was standing in the garden and observing this flow and being in this immersive sensory experience, in my heart from that moment when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, it was, Willow, you are here to help that. And it makes me want to cry as I say that, because there's nothing in my heart that means more to me than helping that cause that nature has to try to bring good in the world, to keep that life flowing, to allow the planet to thrive and for us to thrive through it. I knew when I was 5 or 6 years old that there was nothing more important than helping that. You know, what else are we here to do? To destroy it? To destroy ourselves? That goes against everything that we know in our hearts and in our truth as human beings. We know how precious life is. And there's no need for me to persuade you of that. I know that it's in you. But for me, that was my cause and that was my purpose. But right up into my 30s, I just didn't know how to talk about that, and I didn't know how to serve that. But all that time, there was a gift in me that knew how to serve that. So now, in my practice, since 2017, every time I sit in front of an HSP, I know in my heart that if I can activate this cause in them, if I can activate this sensory ability that they have to serve their cause, they will make a difference. They will support this movement towards helping the world to be a better place, to bring us into alignment with the true nature of who we are. I know that they will be contributing to that. So that is how I serve this cause in me. Now, I didn't decide all of that. I didn't, think that up when I was 5. Yeah, okay, this sounds pretty cool. I'm going to now, decide that my purpose is to help the world in this way. I didn't make all of that up. I didn't choose that. I mean, yes, if we're talking existentially, or perhaps I did choose that. Well, I don't think I did. I don't think that's the right thing to say. That is it's part of the blueprint of my soul, right? That has always been. That's just who I am. It's just what I am. And you have a version of that. So the good news here is that if you're listening to this as a high sensory person, as an HSP, is those foundations are within you to be revealed. Those pieces of the puzzle that you need are naturally occurring in you. And it's driving you crazy at the moment because you know they're there deep within you, but you just don't know what to do about that. And in many cases, like for me, I didn't even know that that's what was causing the pain for me. I just knew that there was this profound calling in me to want to help, to make a difference. And it wasn't just a nice idea. It was like I just can't even find the word for it. It's something that was. It drove me so far into depression that I wasn't serving that. That when my business collapsed in 2008, I knew I had to do something now to actually follow the truth of my path. Otherwise, I was just going to go completely mad. So that drive that sends us into depression, or that feels like we're going to go mad if we don't do something about it. It's a good thing. It's a good thing because it's a part of us that really wants to make a difference. And the good news is that you actually have all the tools that you need to serve that. And that is your ability to perceive the world in the very particular way that you're perceiving the world, what you're seeing, what you're sensing, what you're noticing. That is all designed to be in service, and that is what's possible for you. So there we are. I hope very much that this is resonating for you, and thank you for being with me as we have gone through this. And I hope the passion that you can hear in my voice in this episode is exactly that. It's passion because I don't want you to be stuck. I don't want you to be working in the wrong job. I want you to be doing what you know you really are here to be doing. And I want to encourage you that everything you need to do that is within you. And it is in the way that you're processing. It is in the way that your intuition and your higher empathic abilities is working. And when you get these pieces together, you will understand the next step on your path. The next step in whether that is becoming a facilitator, whether it is becoming a consultant, a coach, a healer, a therapist, a speaker, a teacher, whatever it is that you feel drawn to in order to help people to help create that healing, to create that transformation. Excuse me, whether you are here to work at the leadership level, whether you are here to make a difference at a high level, or whether you're here to work locally in your community, whatever it is, there is an authentic path for you that is, it's predestined because of your natural abilities. I'm not saying that your fate is predestined. I'm saying that the work that you're supposed to be doing is already laid out for you because you naturally have the tools to facilitate it. So whatever that may be, it can be revealed. And I encourage you to watch this masterclass, to come into the community, which is free, and at least to be able to meet other people that have gone through this process, or to meet other people that are in the experience that you're having, where you can start to get the support that you need to realize that there's nothing wrong with you, and that it doesn't matter that you feel different, and it doesn't matter that you've been confused about your work. My intention for the Illuminance community has always been to create a safe space for people to have this conversation. So you can come in and be vulnerable enough to be able to start to explore these pieces, and to have the resource of the High Sensory Method program, which is a self-paced process where you can go through the steps and get these pieces of the puzzle so you can begin to make the change into the work, into the business, into the career that you're born to. And to come to the live weekly sessions that I run in the community, where I can help to answer questions for you, and you can utilize my own lifetime of agony up into my 30s of not knowing what was going on, and then getting this training, and then the work that I've done over the last 8 years of helping other HSPs on this path. So you're not alone. That is absolutely certain. You don't have to be stuck in this weird, painful experience of just waking up every morning going, oh God, another day where I'm just not helping in the way that I know I was born to. It just doesn't need to be like that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Wherever you are, wherever you may be in your life right now, please know that the support is there, and to get curious about what you're noticing, and to be honest about what you care about, and to be careful about who you're talking to about that. That is very, very important. It's one of the greatest mistakes we make. The last thing I'll say here in this episode, one of the greatest mistakes that we make is that we talk to the wrong people about this area of life that we deeply care about. And the trouble is when it's misunderstood, it's such a delicate part of who we are, because we just haven't been able to nurture it and develop it. So, as adults, what happens is this part of us that's in us is always there, but we haven't had the chance to talk about it. So our relationship with it is fragile, and it just doesn't serve us to start talking about these areas and fall into the trap of getting external validation to say, hey, there's something that I really care about. Is it real? Can you tell me if it's real? Can you tell me if there's value here? Can you tell me what this is? And the trouble is when that's shared with people who just don't understand what's going on, they're going to fear whatever that is in us, and they're going to just close it down, which is just a natural part of what happens in our communities. So, it's not to say that it's anybody's fault, but it is going to cause you problems if you're trying to talk about this with the wrong people. So if this is resonating for you, and this has hit a switch for you listening to this episode, then please start to make the steps within yourself privately to get the support, either in our community or by reaching out to me and saying, okay, I'm ready now to start walking this path. What do I do about this? And to allow the parts of yourself that need to be, that need your re-immersion and that need to come through back into ownership and back into engagement gently and carefully, so they can start to grow again naturally within you until they are a strong part of your identity again. When that happens, you can talk to anybody about it and it won't matter. In fact, you don't need to talk to anybody about it even when you're at that stage. You only need to talk about the people who need your help, or those that can support you in your endeavour. That's the only time you need to talk about it. But right now, my invitation is not to talk about it unless it's with someone who's trained or someone who's been through this shift, to make sure that it doesn't get trodden on. That you don't need that right now. What you need is for it to be seen and acknowledged and supported and grown. It's a bit like this fire that's behind me. If there's a little match, even though there is, underneath there is this amazing resource that's within you, if the part that's in your conscious awareness is just a match and you're going, can you tell me, is this real? It's just, someone's just going to blow it out by mistake. You don't want that. You need the right environment where you can put lovely little bits of wood on it and you can start to get your little fire going as you're re-engaging with what matters to you. You're getting aware of your intuition, your empathy, these amazing abilities that we're born with as an HSP, and you're starting to piece it together till the fire's going. And then you can start to talk about it with the people that need to know and with the people that are here to support you. So there we are. Thank you again for tuning in. Please share this episode if there's other HSPs that you know that need to have this information. Please do share your experience in the comments under, if you're listening to this on YouTube. Let's open up the conversation. Tell me about your experience. Tell me about what you need, and I will point you in the right direction, and I will support you in any way that I can. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.